At 70 years old, Denzel Washington walked onto the set of Gladiator 2 looking like he had reversed time by 2 decades. The man playing the most powerful, physically commanding villain in that film was not a young actor in his prime. He was a 70-year-old man who had just dropped 40 pounds of fat, rebuilt his body from the ground up, and showed up to one of the most physically demanding productions of his career looking leaner, more muscular, and more agile than he had looked in years. But what almost nobody knows is how close Denzel came to the opposite outcome. Just 2 years before filming began, he stood in front of a mirror after the Academy Awards and did not recognize the man looking back at him. He was pushing 230 pounds. His face was swollen, his midsection was carrying enormous amounts of visceral fat, and he had spent 15 years damaging his body in ways he was only beginning to fully understand. He looked at those photographs and said something out loud that he would later repeat in a now famous Esquire interview. He said, "I was looking at pictures of myself and Pauletta at the Academy Awards for Macbeth, and I'm just looking fat. I said, those days are over, man." That was not a resolution. That was a non-negotiable decision made by a man who had finally reached his breaking point. What followed was one of the most complete physical overhauls in Hollywood history. Not because Denzel had access to exotic training methods or unlimited resources, but because he identified the specific habits that were destroying him and banned them one by one. He went from 230 pounds of damaged tissue to a lean, explosive 190 pounds. He did it by removing the exact habits that are silently holding back millions of men over 40 right now. Today, we are breaking down the 4 things Denzel Washington completely banned from his routine to rebuild his physique and his physical power at 70. And number 3 on this list is the one that will genuinely stop you cold, because it is something most men use every single evening to relax, and it is the exact reason they cannot lose belly fat no matter what they do in the gym. The first thing Denzel Washington banned from his routine was mindless, static cardio. When most men in their 60s realize they are carrying 40 extra pounds, the very first thing they do is walk onto a treadmill or climb onto a stationary bike and start grinding away at a slow, steady pace. They stare at a screen for an hour, sweat a little, feel like they have done something productive, and then go home and wonder why the scale never moves. Denzel recognized that this approach was a complete waste of the most valuable training time he had. He banned it entirely. What he replaced it with was something he had actually been doing on and off for decades, but finally committed to fully. He boxes, not casually, not as a party trick. 10 rounds of serious pad work 5 days a week with trained boxing coaches who have conditioned professional fighters. He has trained using programs that include precision punch combinations, power drills, and footwork sequences that demand complete neurological focus from the first bell to the last. Here is why this matters so profoundly for men over 40. And why it goes far beyond simply burning more calories than a treadmill. When you throw a punch with proper technique, you are not just working your shoulder, you are forcing your entire central nervous system to coordinate a full body rotational movement that originates in your feet, travels through your hips, up through your core, through your shoulder, and out through your fist in a fraction of a second. That firing pattern demands the fast twitch muscle fibers that deteriorate fastest as men age, and the only way to preserve them is to use them repeatedly under neurological demand. Boxing also forces something that no stationary machine can replicate: cross-body coordination. Your left brain controls your right side, your right brain controls your left. When you combine footwork, head movement, and punch combinations, you are building new neural pathways while simultaneously training your cardiovascular system and burning fat at a dramatically higher rate than any steady-state machine. Denzel did not just lose weight through boxing, he rebuilt the neurological architecture of a younger, faster, more explosive man. The second thing Denzel completely eliminated was unstructured, chaotic eating. This is not about a specific diet. This is about the dangerous eating pattern that almost every busy, successful man over 40 falls into without realizing it. You skip breakfast because you are rushing. You grab whatever is available for lunch. You make random food decisions throughout the day based on what is convenient rather than what your body actually needs. And then you sit down for a heavy, unstructured dinner and wonder why your body is holding on to fat around your midsection no no matter how hard you train. Denzel publicly admitted that the turning point in his physical transformation was not a specific exercise or supplement, it was structure. He told Esquire directly, his trainer makes the meals for him, every single meal, pre-planned, nutritionally precise, timed around his training. He said, he makes the meals for me and we're training, and I'm now 190 something pounds on my way to 185. Here's the biological reality that most men do not understand about eating after 40. When you skip meals or eat randomly, your blood sugar becomes chronically unstable, your insulin spikes after unplanned eating, your cortisol rises in response to the metabolic stress of irregular fuel delivery, and chronically elevated cortisol tells your body to do two specific things simultaneously: break down your existing muscle tissue for energy and lock fat into storage around your organs as an emergency reserve. You end up losing the muscle you want to keep and holding on to the fat you are desperate to lose. Structured, consistent eating does the exact opposite. When your body knows it is going to receive precise fuel at predictable intervals, cortisol stabilizes, insulin stays controlled, and your metabolism actually begins functioning as it was designed to. Denzel did not eat less to lose 40 pounds. He ate smarter, more consistently, and with complete structure. That distinction is everything. Now, before we get to the final two things Denzel banned, if you are a man over 40 who is tired of the guesswork, tired of training hard and eating well but still not seeing results, the reason is almost certainly that you are missing a system built specifically for your biology. Denzel had Lenny Kravitz's trainer build that system for him. You do not need a Hollywood connection or a private chef to get the same result. That is exactly why I created the Strong After 50, the Celebrity Strength Blueprint. The link is right now in the description below. It gives you the exact joint-friendly workouts, the precise nutritional structure, and the daily habits used by men who stay lean, powerful, and highly energized well into their 60s and 70s. Stop guessing, grab the blueprint, and start rebuilding your body the right way today. Now back to Denzel. The third ban is the one that makes most men genuinely uncomfortable to hear. Denzel Washington banned alcohol completely, and the full story behind that decision is one of the most honest things a man of his stature has ever said publicly. For 15 years, Denzel Washington drank daily, not beer at a bar. He built a 10,000 bottle wine cellar in his home in 1999 and learned to drink the best. He was ordering 2 bottles of $4,000 wine at a time from a private liquor store on Sunset Boulevard and drinking both over the course of a single day. He told Esquire, "Wine was my thing, and now I was popping $4,000 bottles just because that was what was left." He knew it was a problem. He managed it by never drinking while actively filming, using work as a reset mechanism, but he acknowledged the pattern clearly. Drinking was a 15-year pattern. I've done a lot of damage to the body. At 60 years old, he stopped. Completely. Not a reduction, not a strategy. He said, "I stopped at 60, and I haven't had a thimble's worth since." And here is the specific biological reason that single decision unlocked the physical transformation that followed. When you consume alcohol, even just 1 or 2 glasses of wine in the evening, your liver immediately stops every other metabolic process to clear that toxin from your bloodstream. Fat oxidation stops completely. Your body cannot burn stored fat while it is processing alcohol, regardless of how well you trained that day. Furthermore, alcohol suppresses the production of antidiuretic hormone, dehydrates your cells, and most critically for men over 40, it completely destroys the architecture of your deep sleep. Deep sleep is the only time your body naturally produces significant amounts of human growth hormone and testosterone. Without those hormones functioning during sleep, your muscles cannot repair, your fat-burning metabolism cannot reset, and the inflammation from training never fully clears. Denzel removed that brake pedal completely at 60. By the time he was 69 and starting his physical transformation, his liver had been clean for nearly a decade. His hormonal baseline was dramatically healthier than it would have been otherwise, and when he added structured training and nutrition on top of that clean foundation, the results were immediate and dramatic. He said it himself, "Things are opening up for me now, like being 70, it's real, and it's okay." The fourth and final thing Denzel Washington banned was the ego-driven obsession with heavy, compressive loading. If you watch Denzel move in his films, not just Gladiator 2, but the Equalizer series and every physical role he has taken since his 60s, you do not see a stiff, bloated man straining under heavy weight. You see a man who moves like a coiled spring. His hips rotate freely. His shoulders snap with speed. His footwork is precise and light. He looks like a professional fighter who has been training for 30 years. years, not a bodybuilder who spent 30 years under a loaded barbell. That is not accidental. That is the direct result of banning the heavy barbell movements that most men still believe are the foundation of staying strong as they age. Heavy barbell back squats, loaded deadlifts from the floor, compressive pressing movements that grind the shoulder into the socket. At 70 years old, loading hundreds of pounds onto an aging spine does not build athletic power. It destroys the cartilage, stiffens the joints, and eventually makes it impossible to move freely without pain. Denzel replaced all of it with functional agility training. Movements built around full range of motion, rotational power, and core stability under dynamic load. His body needed to perform combat choreography convincingly on screen. That requires the ability to rotate explosively from the hips, absorb impact through a stable core, and change direction at speed without flinching. None of that is built under a heavy barbell. All of it is built through movement training that keeps the joints mobile, the nervous system responsive, and the body genuinely athletic rather than simply large. He traded the ego of the weight room for the actual power of moving perfectly, and at 70, the results are visible in every single scene he appears in. Denzel Washington stood at 230 pounds in photographs from the 2022 Academy Awards and made a decision that most men never make, not because they cannot, but because they are not yet willing to. He banned the mindless cardio and replaced it with 10 rounds of boxing that rebuilt his nervous system from the inside out. He banned chaotic eating and replaced it with structured, precise nutrition that finally let his metabolism work for him. He banned alcohol completely, 10 years clean, and gave his liver, his hormones, and his sleep the chance to function the way they were designed to. And he banned ego-driven heavy lifting in favor of the functional agility that makes him look 20 years younger on screen. 4 bans, 40 pounds gone, a body at 70 that most men at 40 would envy. He said it best himself in that Esquire interview when he described his mindset at this stage of his life. He said, "This is the last chapter. If I get another 30, what do I want to do? My mother made it to 97. That is not the mindset of a man accepting decline. That is a man who decided his best chapter was still ahead of him. If you want the complete structured plan to do the same, the exact workouts, the nutrition rules, and the daily habits built specifically for men who refuse to accept that their best years are behind them, grab the Strong After 50, the Celebrity Strength Blueprint. The link is in the description. Denzel figured it out at 69. You do not have to wait that long. Drop a like if this gave you value. Subscribe if you are new. See you in the next one.